and to the members of the press, good morning to all of you. My fellow Liberians, yesterday, President George Weah delivered his fourth State of the Nation address in keeping with the Constitution. On behalf of the collaborating political parties, I respond with mixed emotions. On the one hand, I'm honored by the opportunity to respond as chair of the collaborating political parties. On the other hand, like many ordinary Liberians, I'm disappointed by how far removed the President and his administration are from the realities of the country and the difficulties of many ordinary Liberians. Permit me to summarize some of the updates provided by the President. The President, in his address to the nation, gave the impression that all is well. On the economy, the President reported to the Liberian people that GDP growth was revised downward to negative 3.3% in 2020 from negative 2.5% in 2019, reflecting a decline, but yet he projected economic growth in 2021. Furthermore, the President claims the Liberian dollar has appreciated compared to other currencies, but that 40% of our banknotes are mutilated, hence seeking the approval of the legislature to print a new family of banknotes. President Weah also called for currency reforms, citing that the CBL does not have control over 90% of Liberian dollars outside the banking sector, thus recognizing the lack of confidence or low level of confidence in the banking sector. The President yet again failed to tell us what happened with the new monies printed in the amount of 4 billion Liberian dollars under his administration and the missing 16 billion Liberian dollars. This does not show an economy that is doing well by any measure, or that is expected to do well according to his projections. Still on the economy, the President pronounced that the cash carried forward from fiscal year 2019-2020 to fiscal year 2020-2021 is $7 million US. But according to the National Budget of Liberia 2020-2021, Section 1.5 fiscal table, the unspent cash carried forward from 2019-2020 fiscal year recast budget is US 10 million United States dollars. The question therefore is, what happened to the difference of 3 million United States dollars? Given that the surplus budget was $10 million, why are civil servants not being paid on time? And why are government contractors, including beach and waterway workers, or government employees, including Liberia Water and Sewer Corporation, Liberia Airport Authority employees, amongst many others, are yet to get paid? In spite of the so-called budget surplus, the President admitted that our public debt portfolio has increased by more than 300 million United States dollars in just 1 year. Yet, we cannot see what was done with the 300 million United States dollars when international partners are sponsoring all road construction. Our entire COVID response and government workers' salaries have not been covered. So what was the money borrowed for? Sadly, the President made zero mention of job creation in his address. Under the Pro-Poor Agenda for Prosperity and Development, PAPD, the government promised to create 1 million jobs over a period of 5 years. 3 years later, 600,000 jobs should have been created by now, but not one job was created last year. Instead of the job creation strategy as promised in the PADP, the government has actually implemented a job destruction strategy through this administration's poor governance, lack of accountability and transparency, judicial interference, and general insecurity, which undermines investors' and Liberians' confidence. The president made no mention of new investment and confirmed that confidence in Liberia's investment climate is poor. Fellow Liberians, under the stimulus package COVID relief fund, the president claimed that 40% food distribution had reached 10 counties, benefiting 1 million Liberians. However, according to a 2020 Afrobarometer report, not more than 16% of any social demographic group in Liberia has received the said package, and 78% of Liberians say the benefits to support people during COVID-19 were not fairly distributed. The president also said his government gave Liberia Water and Sewer Corporation United States dollars 1.5 million. Yet, employees at Water and Sewer are on strike for their salaries, and water supply has been cut off to Monrovia and its environs indefinitely. The president further said under the stimulus package COVID relief fund, his government gave US $1 million to Liberia Electricity Corporation for COVID electricity relief. However, many communities are without electricity, and President Weah failed to state the communities that are benefiting from that relief. According to President Weah, a total of $26 have been used on COVID response. What we cannot understand is why are healthcare workers still protesting for salaries and hazard benefits. Except for his mention of COVID, the president did not provide any update to Liberian people on the status of the health sector. The reality is, the health sector is still very weak and is still in need of major interventions. Similarly, there was no progress update on the agricultural sector. Instead, 3 years since this president was inaugurated, he is still announcing aspirations about what he will do about agriculture. It appears the president has finally caught on to the adage that if you have nothing to say, nothing good to say, do not say anything at all. It is a shame that two of the most important sectors, health and agriculture, have seen no improvement to have been reported in his annual message. On education, the president wrongly stated that his free tuition policy has increased enrollment at the University of Liberia from 8,000 to 18,000 students. What the president thought Liberians do not remember is that before he came to power, enrollment at the University of Liberia had been between 20,000 to 30,000 students. Additionally, the president expects us to celebrate the percentage increase of students passing one subject in WASEC. What mediocrity! Education remains a crucial part of our development, and until we are serious about fixing it, this president and his administration will continue to celebrate mediocre outcomes. In addition, the president failed to mention anything about the much-heralded national referendum, which he campaigned for. It was a deliberate omission by the president not to report the woeful, sloppy, and incompetent handling of the referendum process, where because of the lack of civic education, invalid votes in some counties reached as high as 70%. Most importantly, nowhere in his speech did the president mention the Millennium Challenge Compact, the MCC. The reason the president shamefully refused to mention MCC is because the program ended a few days ago without the possibility of renewal due to the same mediocre performance. The government's failure to meet benchmark and performance indicators for the first time since 2019 and failure to heed to several warnings in 2019 led to a non-renewal of MCC2. Unlike Liberia, Ghana just got renewal of MCC2, and Sierra Leone just got enlisted for MCC support. The poor leadership of President Weah has put Liberia at a cross disadvantage of not receiving much needed funds. It was through MCC1 that nearly $400 million United States dollars was sourced in grants that went to the construction of the hydro and power generation and road construction in Liberia. While the president highlighted road projects, most of which were commenced and funding sourced by his predecessor, the president deliberately excluded any reference to the mismanagement of the National Road Fund, which has created the loss of additional resources that would have supported the development of our national road network. The past government worked with international partners and established a legislation in 2015, the National Road Fund, with the sole objective of generating domestic resources to facilitate major investments in the maintenance and rehabilitation of the national road network across the country. The road fund remains a viable domestic financial vehicle, but has been abused by this government to the point that partners in the sector who committed to support the program through matching funds have stopped due to proven mismanagement and failure to adhere to agreed governance protocols. Fellow Liberians, 3 years later, President Weah's administration is still on trial and error governance. And contrary to what the president told you, the state of our nation remains weak and unstable. You do not need President Weah or me to tell you that the cost of living is too high, that prices are rising continuously while incomes are falling, that too many are unemployed as you become spectators and bystanders in your own economy. A small businesswoman or government employee does not need President Weah or me to tell them that we are still importing what we should be producing, or that they cannot get what they deposited in the bank because there is no money in the banks. Liberians do not need President Weah or me to tell them that incompetence and mismanagement at the central bank have combined to create a devastating confidence crisis in the banking sector. Of course, Liberians are living the reality every day in the increasing cost of transportation, food, school fees, rent, and even the cost of government-provided services. Too many families are being overburdened with more than they can bear. Sadly enough, neither President Weah nor me needs to tell you that the quality of our education is still very poor and left wanting, something the President himself publicly admitted when he openly chastised the Education Minister about the poor state of our education system. Fellow citizens, as I speak to you today on behalf of the collaborating political parties, I know that no Liberian needs me or President Weah to tell them that the country's international reputation is again being ruined, but that the international goodwill that Liberians had worked so hard to build for our country is being squandered. We read or hear about it in one shameful scandal after the other. Still overhanging the country is the unresolved issue of the sale of Liberian diplomatic passports to drug dealers and terrorists, which compelled a foreign government to order its own actions in response to the inactions of the administration, perhaps on account of alleged complicity in the criminal scheme. From being regarded as a good example of a nation emerging out of conflict, in only 3 years, the Weah administration has succeeded in reducing the country to not so funny jokes about how not to lead a country. Liberians do not need President Weah or me to tell them that the promise to fight corruption was really another in the long list of promises made only to be broken. In the middle of his term, it is reported that the president has fulfilled only 8% of his promises made. In repeated actions or inactions, the president continues to show it does not have the political will needed to hold high public officials accountable for corruption, mismanagement, or incompetence. Rather, the administration continues to trap itself in juvenile schemes to cover up. We find this from the US $25 million mop-up exercise to the mismanagement of the COVID-19 funds. Even where the administration commissions investigations and audits, it has continued to demonstrate that it lacks the character of leadership and political will to implement recommendations in its own reports. Established to aid the fight against corruption, integrity institutions are either dead or on life support. The head of the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission, LACC, one of the most important institutions in the fight against corruption, has been condemned by the Ministry of Justice to be a fraudster and criminal. In spite of this public confession, the Busi Nwampudiki has continued to preside over the LACC, yet the president expects us to believe that this man is capable of undertaking the reforms he mentioned in his address. 3 years later, Liberians do not need President Weah or me to tell them that rather than a promise to fight corruption, the administration has embraced the menace and surrendered to it. Liberians should not be surprised that the president did not mention the sorry state of the rule of law in our country. This is despite the fact that the rule of law is the heartbeat and lifeblood of our republic, guaranteeing equality to all citizens despite our differences in tribes, religion, gender, and economic condition. Our citizens continue to fear for their safety in light of numerous unexplained and suspicious deaths, crimes, insecurity, and a lack of adherence to our laws at all levels. However, while the president could not speak to the declining state of the rule of law in our country, it has not stopped ECOWAS from doing so loudly, clearly, and with embarrassing effect for the reputation of our country. For example, the ECOWAS Community Court of Justice recently ruled that the impeachment of Associate Justice Kabina Janet is illegal and violates his rights and the Constitution of Liberia. And so, Liberians, you do not need President Weah or me to tell you what we already know and are living every day. The truth is, our country is in a difficult place. And Ma Teresa in Claratown or Gabriel Johnson in Logantown does not need the president or me to tell them that our people are suffering. Our streets and communities are becoming increasingly unsafe. The institutions of government, as well as the governance systems of check and balance, are being consumed by sycophantries, cronyism, standards for performance and accountability, including in the highest office of the land, are being lowered. Misguided efforts and illegal schemes to silence and or deny critics the rights and privileges to which they are justly entitled are replacing sworn public and official duties to protect the most basic of human rights and freedoms. Yet these actions happen without the needed consequences to inspire good behavior. Admittedly, President Weah did not create all of these many problems of our country. But rather than attend to fixing the problems, as he promised, he has spent the first 3 years of his administration creating some worse than the ones he met, and has failed to act in the interest of the people, but wants us to believe he was serious about warning his officials yesterday. This is not just a conclusion reached by the CPP, it is also in a recent judgment of the people on the performance of the government, as seen in the December 8th, 2020 midterm senatorial elections, where you express your collective judgment on the midterm performance of this administration. In your collective verdict, you, the people, historically repudiated the direction of the country under the leadership of President Weah. You massively rejected the continued mismanagement of the country's resources to better the lives of the few over the interests of the many, and overwhelmingly denounced the policies and politics of disunity by voting majority CPP and independent candidates. As an opposition community, the CPP could selfishly welcome the failure in the performance of this government. In democracies, the failure in the performance of one contender presents an opportunity for the other. Nevertheless, while we celebrate the many favorable results for the opposition in the just ended election, we cannot celebrate the failing performance of the Liberian government. This is because we count ourselves as opposition. This is because before we count ourselves as opposition, we first count ourselves as Liberians. As Liberians, we know that when Liberia fails, it is all Liberians who suffer. And so rather than celebrate the victories, today the CPP renews our appeal to the President and his administration to change course. We call on the various branches of the government to preserve their constitutional independence and institutional integrity. Surrendering either out of fear of political reprisals or the narrow interest of partisanship is truly a disservice to the country and our people. The CPP makes this call because we know that the defeat of the Coalition for Democratic Change is not enough to suddenly inspire a new direction and change in their policies and attitudes as it should. Nothing in its recent actions can assure us that this administration intends to listen or demonstrate that they understand the difficulties Liberians are living through daily and are willing to change course. How else are we to interpret the post-election efforts by the government to again stifle free speech and undermine the rule of law in our country? How else are we to interpret the knee-jerk political response to seek to print its way out of a confidence crisis in the banking sector? Fellow Liberians, on behalf of the CPP, I wish I could reassure you that the difficult days are behind us. I wish I could tell you that the road ahead will be easy, or that our government will be more caring and responsive. I really cannot. The truth is that the road ahead to 2023 will be long and difficult, but I can assure you of the commitment of the CPP to remain engaged on behalf of the Liberian people. Together, we will get through the difficulties. All we ask is that our government acts honorably and behave accountably. All we ask is that our government acts honorably and behaves accountably. Our hands remain open and extended to the government to help improve the conditions of our people, and we hope they begin to take our many recommendations on how to change course and improve the lives of the Liberian people. Liberia belongs to all Liberians and must be the safest place all Liberians can have equality in opportunity and in citizenship. We do not promise to change the country overnight, but a CPP-led administration will work every day to achieve the transformation we seek. When we fail, we will own it, learn from it, and hold ourselves to a higher standard to be and act better. We will prioritize the return of honor and trust in public service. Of course, Liberians have earned the right to be skeptical. Our people have seen too many broken promises and are disillusioned by too many false starts. But some of us have not come to politics to enrich ourselves. We have come to give back, to serve, to be different, and to positively impact the lives of many of our fellow citizens. Some of us are not trapped in the ways of the old. We come with different ideas, believing that we cannot continue to do the same old things, hoping to get new and different results. Finally, my fellow Liberians, although it seems hopeless, I urge you not to lose hope. Do not lose hope in the promises of democracy or the guarantee of freedom, justice, and equality. Do not lose hope in the power of your participation and your votes to change the direction of our country. Do not lose hope that our country can indeed rise, that our government can care, and that Liberians can be united, that you can enjoy your country, have good paying jobs, and access to quality, affordable health care, education, and basic necessities. That you can raise your children and family free from hunger and harm. That you can feel safe in your own home and trust the judiciary in times of dispute. That you can once again be proud of your country. The night may be long, but the joy cometh in the morning. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless Liberia.